Hi guys, for today's adventures we're going to try and make a magic wallet. I have done a magic wallet before. It's been ages. This is a little bit thicker than a bookbinding hide leather wise. You can see it's kind of thick. I usually use the thicker for these wallets because they get manhandled a lot, so you want to make it sturdy. You can see here I drew out 3.5 by 3 inch squares, which I'm going to now cut out using a X-Acto knife. This is a utility knife, basically. When doing any leather work, I always try to use as small of an area as possible so that I'm not wasting any. This wasn't an animal once after all, you know, you've got to respect that. And again, always watch your fingers. Now, when you're doing this last 2 cuts, make sure that you cut off this little smidge inside before you go and cut the whole thing out, because that will be impossible to cut off if this piece is loose. It'll slide all over the place and you won't be able to keep up with it. Now you can see on here there's discoloration. If you're doing a lighter color like mahogany or just a natural color or something like that, that would make a difference. That is due to sun exposure on one part versus the other. The darker part actually at the sun exposure. In this case I'm doing it in black. It's not going to matter. Okay? So, other piece, perfectly okay. Put that away. Okay, so what I'm going to do with these today is a different kind of technique, I guess. Different for me, anyway. Usually I do all the tooling by hand, and I wish I had mine to show you. It's fallen apart many years ago. So what I'm going to do is use a embossing folder for doing paper embossing with the big kick machine, the big kick machine, and do something to this effect. See, it's embossed on there without this is just a piece of leather, a trial piece of leather. So I'm going to emboss something like that using the big kick, but I'm going to do steampunk gears kind of setup. Okay, so we're going to get these wet but not drench them. When you get them wet, it makes them moldable, so when I run it through the embosser, it'll actually hold the embossing. So, just keep going over them a little at a time. When you do leather work, you get used to what it looks like when it's got enough water, not too much. If it's too much water, I guarantee you it will not hold the embossing properly, or the tooling if you're doing tooling. You can tell these are still kind of stiff, so they're definitely not enough. There's not enough moisture in them. Just softens them up, and like I said, makes them more moldable. Now if you do accidentally get them too wet, all you have to do is let them sit for a few minutes and they will dry right up. You know, you can also set them on some paper towel to help to pull the moisture out of them. It's up to you. I mean, not exact science by any means. See, the water is still absorbing in pretty well. Backside looks good. A couple of spots look kind of dry still, I suppose. Yeah, see, that one's very bendy now. This one's still a little tough. Whoa, a little bit too much there. Let's see. That's good. And that's feeling good. That's just plain water that I'm using, by the way. Alright, so give these a second, make sure they're not too dry. You can tell by the color changes on them. You probably cannot see that well from here, but the color changes so you can tell that they're either too wet or not wet enough. If they stay really dark, they're too wet. They lighten back up closer to their dry state, then you know you're doing right. Get water all over the place. Right. This is the big kick for those of you who do leather work. This is used actually for the vintage machine is actually used for embossing little pieces of metal jewelry, like things. I found that the setup that you need to do leather embossing is not exactly the same as paper embossing. So we're going to use Darice, and it is called Steampunk. Plain old. There's two surfaces here. This one here will leave an indent. This one here will leave the pattern looking popped up. So this is the side we want to use. The combination of platforms is the base platform, the solo shim. I'm going to put it upside down so that the paper doesn't get screwed up by the water. And just one of these. And make sure that you put it in the direction that you want the pattern to go, because this is going to lay this way, here. So then you want to look on here and see, okay, what do I want on my front of my wallet? In which direction do I want it? So if I do this right, I might be able to get both of them in one shot. Let's see. Nope, not big enough. But I will do this one first. And then just one of your surfaces. There's two of these. One goes on the top, one goes on the bottom for doing die cuts. You only need one of them for this. Otherwise it's just too much. And then you just crank it through. Easy as that. And you like to go through a couple times, make sure it's a really sharp print. And easy as that. Oh, I picked the wrong side. See, it's indented. But I'm going to run with it and act like I meant it. Dang it. We'll do the other side popped up. Easy as that. Oh. So, again, make sure you have it on the right direction. You have only yourself to blame if you don't. Alright. Run it through. If you find it's not embossing enough, you can always add the solo shim or the other platform. You just have to play with it until you find the right oomph. You know, the one that gives you enough. Okay, so this one did not embossed very good. See that? Very poorly embossed, actually. I think it dried out a little too much in the weeding. So I'm going to dampen it down, line it back up nicely, and add that other solution because I think there's just not enough oomph. And oomph is something, it's totally a judgment call. I'm going to trade out this one. And then this, I'm just going to line it back up as best I can. Which you see from there, I'm sure. I gotta get right up in my own face for that one. There we go, that's gonna work good. Alright. Oh, it's beautiful. See? Beautiful. If I wanted to, do I want to? I might just redo this one, make it a little more in depth as well. Yeah, I think I will. Pull a good measure, make them match, make them have the same oomph. This one's easier to line up at any rate. This handy dandy contraption is called a slot punch tool, and it is from Making Memories. It's actually quite handy. I've had many uses for this toy. This makes it so you don't have to hammer anything. All you do is you press, and ta-da, you have a hole. Easy peasy. Shouldn't do that without things underneath it, I suppose. Anyhow, the holes in here go at 3/4 of an inch down on either side, which would be here and here, and then 1/4 of an inch in, which would be here and here. That's on the one side. Now on the other side, they go in, I believe, an inch. I'm going to be an inch. And if it's not right, well, hey. This pattern is from Tandy Leather. Again, I learned it a million years ago when I worked for one of their retail stores. Alright, the lace that I'm using is a quarter, not quite a quarter inch. It is 1/8 of an inch. The hole that I have is bigger than 1/8 of an inch, but that is okay, because you know what I can do? Find a cap to my pen. First of all, I can either change it to a circular one, like that. This is what the hole looks like on here. Can you see that? Which way am I going here? Okay. That is just about a quarter of an inch. If I use the 1/8 of an inch, it'll be fine. I'm going to do that rather than finagling. Teaching and finagling, never a good idea. At any rate, the punch is going to be centered on that crisscross that you just made. Press. It's probably not going to go through the first time, but aim for twice. This is kind of thick leather, so I'm not actually expecting it to go through at all. So anything I get is good. So you can see it did not punch all the way through, so I'm going to cut it out with X-Acto, but let me put this stuff away real quick here so we can deal with that. Try to keep my stuff together. Contrary to popular belief. The reason I'm doing this from the back side is so that I don't leave marks on the other side. You don't want to mess up the other side too much. You can all avoid it. Alright. So there's those. Oop, this way. And the other one. Alright. I'll be right back. Alright, back to the magic wallet. I will post a link in the box below explaining where you can buy the kit. Basically, it comes with the 2 pieces, the lace, the little needle. Where are you? Right there. This is actually a lace needle. It pops apart and you stick it to the end of the lace. Comes with those and instructions. The holes are already pre-punched for you. You don't have to deal with any of that baloney. You literally just tool on it or emboss on it like I did and put it together. You can stain it or not stain it. It's up to you. I am going to stain it. This is always a fun and messy project because I'm really good at making messes with stain. So I have this, you know those little tables that fold up and go in the corner? That's what this was once upon a time. It was just a nice oak thing and the bottom of it got broken, so I figured save it for this. Why not? So I got this little handy contraption. Literally just a wool dauber that you, again, can buy for like nothing at Tandy Leather. And we're using coal black leather dye. This is an item called EcoFlow. Hold on, let me get the sticker off the front of it here so you can see it. It's called EcoFlow and it is coal black. Okay, you can do it. No, we're not. So, nice solid black color. No blue hints and all that good jazz. Very messy stuff to warn you ahead of time. Let me get my water ready here. Alright. So, sorry for the jiggle. This is literally all you have to do with this. Blunk. Rub it up. Let it soak in. Make sure you're getting all the nooks and crannies, because this design has a lot of nooks and crannies. You can wear gloves if you don't want to get the ink all over your hands. I never do. I could care less. You could also cover your surface if it's something that's potentially going to get destroyed. This surface has obviously been used for this purpose many times. Make sure you do the inside and the outside. You can let this dry first if you want. I think it doesn't really matter. You get a little bit better absorption of the ink on the dry surface, obviously, but it doesn't make a big difference. Patience. You just need more patience is all. If it's not dry, then you have to wait for it to dry, or at least somewhat dry, to add your next layer of color. Any little bits and pieces of fluff that come off of this little dauber onto your thing, you can just wipe it off before you seal it with the, I'm using Satin Sheen in this case. Alright, dab off the excess ink into the water dish. That's all you need that for. Make sure you always put your cap back on. Wait away. Do not wait. Trust me. Again, spilled some all over the house. Alright. So, there you go. Always make sure that you get inside your holes, you know, your little holes and things, with the color, because it'll show through otherwise. And we did both of these. See, pretty nifty. This little contraption here is an edger. It's literally just a piece of wood with a divot in the middle of it. And all you do with that is just run it along the edge while this is still wet. And, try not to flip it out of your hand. Just run it back and forth. You don't have to turn it, you don't have to move it, you don't have to do anything. Just run it back and forth. I always try to be a little cautious on the corner so I don't smush them too much. But this is to make, literally to make the edges rounded on your leather. That is it. Make them look finished. And that's good. You don't want them to look kind of funky, do you? You see. Yeah, let's use this plastic one. Skinnier. Just shines the edge, makes it all nice and finished. My camera does not want to focus for some reason. Sorry. I thought I had it on autofocus, but I guess not. Maybe it doesn't have that option. Right. So, now, these have to dry before you put the finish on them. If you put this on them while it's still wet, it is going to take 800 years to dry. Don't do it. So, I'm going to pause the video and come back when they're dry. You can use the paintbrush or just use the dauber. Again, it's up to you. Both work. You do have to be cognizant there's going to be little bubbly bits if you do this dauber thing, because nature of using it. I like to do 2 coats. Easier on the back than the front because the back dries quicker. I want to make sure that there's not too much excess built up in the grooves of the pattern, because it'll get weird looking. Technical term there. I dried this with a heat gun while I was off camera, just so you know. You don't have to cut that until you're done, until you've got what you want on there, but I just did, because get the roll out of the way, pure and simple. Alright, so this little doodad here, I don't know if you can see that, but it separates, and then you pull it apart and you slide the leather lace in there. Holy moly, you cannot see this. So you put the in the end and you snap it shut. Okay, I'm gonna do that very carefully. Ouch. With leatherwork, don't plan on keeping your nails. It's pointless. Alright, for the love of Pete. That was hard enough, huh? Alright, facing the same direction. Let me spin this paper over so maybe we can see. Alright. With the 2 sets of holes, which are, the holes are offset, you can see these are closer together than these are. You want these 2 facing the same direction as these 2, the matching ones. And you want it face up. So you're starting little guy in. Make sure here. Little guy in. And you're going to do it to the shiny side, down, through this hole. All the way to the end, except for an inch. Leave about an inch hanging. See, there's about an inch. A little bit more than an inch. That's okay. And then you're going to take this and cross over from the underside on this project. From the underside. Make sure your lace is straight, which mine is very much not straight. Alright. And now it is. And diagonally across. Hole A, hole B, hole C, and D. Oh, try not to let it get out of control here. You'll lose your lacing directions if you do. It's very important that they're laced in the right direction or it won't work. It is a magic wallet after all. I made one of these not too long ago out of duct tape. All completely random things. And then you're going to go to F, which is this opposite corner from, here's where I am. You're going to go to that corner. Keeping your lace straight, keeping your whole thing straight. Stay where I put you. And then you're going to go to G, which I'm coming out of here. G is right here. And from G, you're going to go to H, which is here, and you're going to go from the underside. So H is here, I'm coming from here. Not that you can see that too well, but there you go. So I'm coming from here, going to here, from the underside. This will be the end of the line. So, underside. Make sure my lace is straight. Yeah, cooperate with me. Alright. Jeebus. Unruly. Alright, so the reason why I say you can do this before you do the finish is because you can. You can always lift up the things and go underneath them. You can always work around them. It doesn't make it that big a deal. You don't even have to finish it if you don't want to. You can just leave it as is. I do like to because, you know, wallets, they get wet, they get damaged. Life happens. Tighten up these strings just a smidge. Make sure they're all in line. Okay. Make sure again that you have your little bit of a gap in the middle. And snip. I personally don't like them to overlap. It's a matter of preference for whoever's making it. Alright, I'm going to pause it for a second, and all I have left to do is glue these two down, like that, and demo how to use it. So give me just a second. I normally would use a contact cement called Leather Weld, which, again, I don't know where my stuff is. So, pull this back up there. Today I'm going to try it with Fabri-Tac, which says it is good for leather and all kinds of fun stuff. So, we shall see if it works. Hopefully it does. This is from a brand called Vegan. Fabri-Tac. Again, you always want to make sure that your straps, whatever you want to call them, are tight, but not too tight. Because if you do this right, you can actually fit your ID cards and like everything in here with your money. I used to carry mine, all kinds of stuff in mine. I had probably 2 or 3 store cards and my ID and identification anyway, and whatever cash I had on hand usually in there at the same time. Because this part here is opened. I'll show you that too when I get this glued down. Just a second. Remember I said I don't like them to overlap. Being OCD, sorry. Alright. So, give it just a second to dry. Put the cap back on. This would be what I made. Always put the cap back on your glue. Nothing like losing a whole entire thing of glue because you were too lazy to put the cap back on quick enough. Alright, let's try this. Open up some stuff to put it up. Ooh, $2 to my name. Alright, so, as I was saying, these straps right here, not the top ones in the back, can hold cards. You have to just slide them in there. Okay? That's just a gift card from my store where I work. Now, for the money, I take a standard American bill. I honestly don't know if other bills will fit or not. The standard American bill is not quite 2 3/4 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and something, almost a little over 6 inches long. So you just fold it in half. If the bills where you live are that size, then it'll work. If they're not that size, then you need to adjust it so that there is a 1/4 inch, roughly a 1/4 inch around each side. Okay? So you can adjust the size of this piece and where the straps are to make it fit money from anywhere. Because I know money's all different sizes and shapes. Alright, so all you have to do for it to be a magic wallet, lay this in here, close it, and open it the other way. And it's still stuck in there. Pretty darn cool, huh? And then this, again, will go in the straps behind the money. There's that. And you can keep adding more money. Or you could trick your friends. Just put their own money in there and be like, I can get this in there one-handed without doing anything. I get to keep it. I'm sure they won't fall for it, but it's worth a shot. Anyway, there you go. Magic wallet from Tandy Leather. My version of it, I obviously did not buy this kit. This as a kit, I made this. You do need to make sure that you don't lace too tight. See how it's crooked there? Right here? That is because I pulled the laces too tight and it's shifted. If you play with it long enough, it'll straighten itself out eventually. So, there you go. Have a good night.